Today on I'll Have Another, we have Michelle Baxter on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on a great race at CIM.
Thank you so much. It's been a long time coming, and so I'm still on that cloud nine from it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're still soaking it up.
Yeah, definitely.
I read your recap on your blog on the bike while I was on the bike this morning in my garage. So that was really fun to kind of hear the breakdown of all the miles.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to write that just for my own sake. And I know people like the details. So I've been blogging for 11 years now. So I've always done a recap after almost every race, especially the big ones. So yeah, it's fun to go back because then I go back and realize, oh, I don't remember that part. And yeah, and then sometimes for practical purposes, okay, well, what was my nutrition like for that marathon? So things like that. Yeah. So it's nice to have that, and I know people enjoy reading it.
Yeah. Okay. That one of the things that we're going to talk about is your nutrition, because I'm super curious about some things you mentioned in the blog, like things that you changed and the carb loading and all that. So we'll get there. But first, before we do that, your official time, 2:58 what?
24.
Okay, 2:58:24. I always feel like if I get the minutes right, that's all I really need, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. And so why don't we just like walk back a little bit? I know this has been such a long process for you, and that's why these stories of like sub 3, like first sub 3 hour marathons are so exciting to me when there's like a story behind it. Not that it's not cool when someone goes out and runs their first or second marathon sub 3, but like when there's been years of training and babies and injuries and whatever else it might be in someone's life, I just think that feels so relatable to so many people because we all have things that slow us down or trip us up or whatever it may be. So, what year did you run your first marathon?
2010.
Okay, 2010.
2010, I ran Grandma's Marathon in Minnesota. That's where I'm from. So that's why I chose that marathon. And at the time, I had trained for that race. I had decided when I was going to commit to running a marathon, I wanted to train, because you hear a lot of people, they just almost accidentally fall into running it. But I did want to train. And so I ran 3:44 at that race. And
Okay.
At that time, I was trying to qualify for Boston. I don't know that I thought it would happen the first time, but within a few tries, I did get there. But that wasn't, I didn't qualify for Boston on my first try either.
Okay, I love that. I'm so curious. Okay, so I ran my first marathon in 2008. So we're kind of like similar timelines as far as like how long we've been distance running. And I ran, I ran a 3:39, same goal. I was trying to qualify for Boston, which then it did qualify me because it was 3:40 at the time.
Okay.
Which is crazy to think about. They might have changed it soon after that, but everything was just so different then. Like the world of running was so much smaller in
Yeah.
2008. But I always say that first marathon, I like just had a Timex watch and like we had a training plan, but I did everything based on time, which looking back, I'm like, I was probably running so much further than I realized because I would just be like, oh, I assume I'm running a 9-minute mile or something like that. And now looking back, I was probably running so much faster, so going so much further, which is probably why I ended up running faster than I thought I could. So I'm just curious, like, do you remember what your training looked like for that first marathon?
I do remember doing the long runs, some hard workouts. I'd have to go back in my logbook for sure, but I think I probably did more track stuff,
Yeah.
track workout, just because I was kind of knew what to do based off cross country in college. So kind of carried over some of those workouts, 800s. Not that those are bad, but I definitely did not do workouts within long runs like I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so probably track stuff. Honestly, I don't really remember too much.
Yeah. So how many marathons have you done since then?
So this is number 12.
Okay.
CIM was number 12.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
not a ton.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of
Not a-
years.
Yeah, yeah. And I knew, I mean, I didn't even feel like, well, living in Alaska, it was always hard to run more than one. I mean, we'd have to travel, or it's hard to do Boston here because you have to train during the winter. And so things like that, just the logistics made it difficult to do more than one a year.
Okay, let's pause right there. I need to know about living in Alaska. That's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you. I just think it's so fascinating, and I cannot imagine training in the weather that you train in. I know you do treadmill run-ins too, but like, how do you deal with this cold?
It's hard. And for most people, it's the traction part for running. So the roads stay covered in snow and ice 6 months out of the year, basically.
Really?
So yeah, pretty much. I mean, at least four.
Wow.
Yeah, it does not go away because what happens is we get a big snow, and the snow, it takes 2 or 3 days for the snow plows to come and plow everything, and by then the cars have packed the snow down, so and the plows can't get to the actual pavement. So I'm running on snow and ice 4 or 5 months out of the year. And so I wear studded shoes to help with the traction because my regular road running shoes are, I would slip and fall. So I wear studded shoes.
What brought you to Alaska?
My husband's from here.
Oh, really? But I
We were
mean,
only supposed to stay a year. We were only going to stay a year, and now almost 15 years later.
15 years.
Yeah.
So, but you're from Minnesota, so it's not like you like moved to Alaska from like Florida or
Yeah.
like winter, but like is it hard? Like is it hard? I feel like seasonally I would really struggle because I struggle in the winter in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the daylight. I mean, you can see it's 8 o'clock here. It's pitch black, and the sunrise is at 10 a.m. right now. But even yesterday, it was like 10:45, and it was still dusky at 10:45 a.m. It was almost 11 a.m. So, and then the sun sets at like 3 p.m.
Are you
So,
kidding me? Why
no.
don't I know this? Is this a fact I should know?
We have the same amount of daylight anywhere else in the world. And so and then our days in the summer are basically about 20 hours of daylight during the summer.
That is just wild to me. I don't know why it seems so wild to me. It's just I can't even imagine. So is that like 6 months and 6 months, or does it slowly like how does that work?
There's a progression.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, yeah, yeah. So we lose at the height of the daylight that we lose or gain, we can gain or lose up to a half an hour a week. So it's pretty drastic. One day you're driving to work in the dark, and then the next week you're driving to work in the light when we're gaining light in the summer or in the springtime. So
Wow. Okay, so are you a lifer? Like are you trying to campaign to leave or what?
yes,
Are
very
you?
much. Oh yes.
Where in your dream life, where would you live?
Oh, probably Colorado or North Carolina.
Oh, okay, good. Oh,
Those two.
good. I like to hear that because we just moved to North Carolina.
I know, and I'm very jealous.
Well, I think it is just so badass that you train in Alaska and that you have the motivation to do it like with these kinds of like date. I mean, it is hard to get out of bed when it's dark out, and you're getting out of bed when it's dark out regardless because if it doesn't get light till 10 a.m.
Yeah, yeah. It's the days in the winter are very, very short. And then, I mean, people live for the summer. Like they say, the lack of daylight in the winter is worth it for all the daylight in the
Yeah,
summer.
that's a lot of daylight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in these 12 marathons, um, since 2010, at what point did you think I'm going to try to break 3 hours? And did you think it was actually possible?
I definitely did not even have the thought. It was my coach who approached me. Actually, before she was my coach, we had met via our blogs, and she was from Minnesota as well, and pretty close to where my parents are. And I had gone to see her and just meet up with her. And that was in October, November 2013. And she had been following my training on my blog, and so kind of knew where I could improve and what I can do to get faster. And she's like, I really think you could run a sub 3 hour marathon. And at the time, my marathon was a 3:17. So to cut basically 17 plus minutes off, I was like, that's crazy. Like, but I also saw her authenticity in her voice and her face when she told me. And I was like, well, she seems to believe in me. So I never had anybody believe in me like that before with my running. So I was like, well, I guess maybe, maybe there's something to it. So we'll give it a try.
What year was that?
That was fall of 2013.
Okay, so where are you as far? So Michelle has two kids. So where are you in terms of like motherhood?
Oh, hadn't gotten pregnant yet.
Okay, so that happens sort of shortly after then. If you have a 7-year-old,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay, did you like do another marathon before having baby?
No,
Okay.
no. We had more or less decided to get pregnant shortly after that, and then because I was 30 or just turning 30, and so it's like the time was
Yeah, let's go ahead and
the
get started.
motherhood time. Yeah. So, but then after that, after I had my son, I ran. Well, it wasn't. I had him in the fall of 2014. My first marathon back was 9 months postpartum,
Okay.
and that wasn't necessarily. I didn't really think I could break 3 hours at that point in time. Training was going well for being relatively, short period of time postpartum. That also was a pretty high race. I ended up winning one of the local races here at 9 months postpartum, and I ran an adjusted time of 3:07.
Oh, wow.
Course was 1 mile short.
Ah,
So we only ended up running 25.2 miles that
did you
day.
guys know it was going to be shorter? Did it was it just a goof on the course and it was a small race?
A goof on the course. They had changed
Wow.
the course that year, and then there was an out and back section, and they basically set the cone too close, and they forgot to push it out further. So
Oh
we
my
ran
gosh.
more, and so then it's like after that point in time, my watch wasn't matching up with the mile markers, and like, wait, okay, this isn't right. Then I was thinking maybe we would do an extra mile at the end or something. But it was, yeah, that was still pretty high. That was a high, just winning that race and being 9 months postpartum and
Yeah.
running basically a 10-minute PR. So that was a really good race. And then from there, I just kind of continued to improve postpartum. Had a really those next 6 months, and then really had a shot to run a sub-3 marathon. At grandma's 2016, 14, yeah, 16. But the weather was so hot. It was like
Ugh.
80, 85 degrees and high humidity. And that's not, you're not going to perform well in
You
a
got to be ready
marathon.
for you got to be fit for a 2:49 to run a
Yeah.
2:59 on a day like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then after that, had some injuries, had a long injury, 10-month injury with a hip labral tear, that took a while to rehab, and had a couple of shots. I don't know. I'm like telling the whole
No,
story.
yeah, no, tell it. We want to know. Do it. Go for it.
And then let's see. Yeah. So after the 10-month injury, I finally rehabbed that. Was feeling pretty good. But I just feel like I had like little flare-ups of injuries here and there, 2017, 2018, and then had my second son in 2019, and then the pandemic. So yeah, there was like a lot of hiccup or like a lot of starts and stops where I didn't have a long time to train. Like going to New York City Marathon, I only had like 4 months to train. And so I just didn't have enough time where I was healthy to really gain some fitness to try for a sub-3.
When did you run New York?
2018.
Okay, so before your second baby.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell us about this training cycle. Who were you working with? Like mileage, what did you peak out at? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So basically from when my son was born in fall 2019 until now is kind of my training cycle, just a really long training cycle, and the fact that I knew that I wanted to. I had signed up for CIM April 2020. So shortly after I had my son, not knowing, when we were all naive that and thought that the pandemic would be over. So that whole time, this whole 2 years postpartum now, I knew that I was still going to go for the sub 3, and I knew that I was going to try at CIM. I did do another marathon in August here. But so 2 years, and then that whole time I was working with my coach, Nicole, and she was the one that instilled this idea in me. And so we had the build up to my August marathon here, and I ran a 3:01:14.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
75 seconds short of a sub 3. I really thought it was going to go well. It ended up being a pretty hilly course. It was just shy of 1,000 feet elevation gain. So, and it's, there's other factors, like not a lot of people to run with here, and our races are small, not a lot of people cheering, things like that. So, but then the time in between that August marathon and CIM, I did self-coach. My coach took on another job, and she wasn't able to coach me, so I self-coached. I would still text her and, ask her for advice here and there. But then during these last 3.5 months, I did a lot more 20 milers. I think I did at least four, and I did like 2 20 milers, a 22 miler, and a 24 miler. So that was something I've done that in the past, but not as recently. And then I did a 100-mile week. So, which I've done those a couple in the past, but I did that again this training cycle. So more volume, and then more of those marathon pace mile workouts within the long runs. So
I just can't imagine doing a 100-mile week. Your body must handle it well, though. I mean, if you can do it, your body didn't fall apart.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I've done them. I mean, it's been a few years. This was the first time after having kids. So I had done them before kids. But yeah, I do handle pretty high mileage well. I usually stay in the 60s, 70s, low 80s for most of my other training, my marathon cycles. So I did a 90-mile week, and it went well. I actually felt really good. I was surprised how good I felt. And then I was gonna do 95. I was thinking, like, trying to aim for 95, and my friend's like, well, you might as well do 100.
Might as well get to it.
And yeah, the week of the 100-mile week, it was the week of Veterans Day, and on that day we got dumped on with snow. I think we got 18 inches of snow in 24 hours or something crazy like that. And I did a 14-mile workout on the treadmill that morning, because the one time I will not run outside. The cold won't stop me. I don't like it. I don't like the cold at all. But I will usually go outside over the treadmill. But any fresh snow, it's so hard to run, especially when it's that much. So it's so difficult to run outside in the fresh snow. So that morning I did a 14-mile workout on the treadmill, and then I did another 4 or 5 miles in the afternoon on the treadmill. So it was like
to your 100.
18, 19-mile day on the treadmill, and then so that was like the tail end of my 100-mile week.
Oh, I love it. What's the running community like? Are you in Anchorage?
I'm in Anchorage, yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple groups. I had a really hard time trying to find other people to run with these last few months. Every weekend before my long run, I'd be texting my friends, hey, can you run with me? But it was, everyone just was on different schedules or had different other things that they were training for, or someone had just run Boston, so they couldn't, and they were recovering from that. So there's a couple groups in town. But usually I do a lot of my training on my own. I do it early in the morning, and it's been hard. It was hard to coordinate with other people's schedules.
I noticed that your treadmill's in your garage. I'm all about a garage gym. Is it cold in there though?
Our garage is heated.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, which I get asked a lot, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like heated garages are an Alaskan thing
Okay.
because even in Minnesota, I didn't know a lot of people with a heated garage. But yeah, and I don't know if it's because like our water heater is out there, and so
Hmm.
you have to keep that. But yeah, there's a
That's
heater, and
amazing.
yeah, and I always I actually don't run with the door open like that for my
Oh,
when
but
I have that on my reels.
light could well it's better light.
It's better light, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and then you can see the elements like as to why I'm not running outside.
yeah, yeah. Well, we when we still lived in Indiana, we had finished our garage in the back with like a carriage house on top, so we rented that out on Airbnb, and so we did our garage below or our gym below it. And it was heated because the Airbnb was heated and it was all kind of one unit. And so we were really lucky because people would, even in Indiana, people would ask me that too. They were like, "Don't you get so cold in your garage?" And I'm like, "Well, we're spoiled, you know." But now here in our little garage gym here, which our garage is like a third of the size that it was in Indiana, it's not heated, but winters are also more mild. So
Yeah,
I'll take the
yeah.
more mild winter, I guess, over the heated garage that we
Oh
have.
yeah, yeah, I would too.
But yeah, I don't know, something about a treadmill in the house. I love it in the garage. It feels more like it makes me feel like I'm more outdoors, or just I don't know. I feel more connected to running on a treadmill in a garage versus like inside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I never thought about it. This during the last winter was the first time I'd had a treadmill at home.
Oh my gosh,
Otherwise,
are
I
you
would go.
serious?
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have to go to the gym to use the treadmill there. Or we do have an indoor 400-meter track here, just right down the road from where I live, which is really, really nice. But the one winter it collapsed. There's like so much snow and ice built up on it, and it's like a inflatable dome. And it collapsed one winter, so we don't have it. And then during the pandemic, you had to wear a mask to run inside there, and I didn't really want to do that. So yeah, last winter was the first time I had a treadmill in my house.
What treadmill did you go with?
I got it was from a friend. It's a Nordic track, which I
Okay,
actually
that's what
really
we have.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a model only made for Sears stores.
Okay.
So it's like kind of middle of the road. But
Yeah.
I wanted it to be able to push the like speed
Uh-huh.
because I mean that's usually when I'm using the treadmill is when I have to oscillate between intervals and different speeds quickly. So I wanted that and just I mean it's nothing too fancy.
My thing is I want it to decline. Does yours decline?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I want to be able to go up and down to like I don't know. Well, here actually now I don't care because now we live in North Carolina and it's so hilly. So now I've been running on the treadmill like once a week even though it's nice out. Just to get flat because I'm like so I know I'm not really using the incline decline too much, but in Indiana it was so flat that I wanted the decline too so I
Um,
could like mimic actual hilly runs, you know.
yeah, yeah. Usually when I'm using the treadmill, it's for a faster
Yeah.
workout. So I just keep it, well, at like a half to 1% incline. And then so I don't use it too much for hill training or incline training.
Do you like doing speed work on the treadmill?
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather be outside, but it's okay. I know if I want to maintain my fitness or build fitness during the winter, it's really the only option for me here. And those workouts, they go by fast, much faster than just running, 10 straight miles
Yeah.
easy on the treadmill. So yeah, it's nice to be able to set the pace and just stick with it and kind of train your body that way. So it's tolerable.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the actual race at CIM. There's always such a great community of people trying to break 3 hours or OTQ or whatever the goal is. So is that part of the reason why you chose that race?
Kind of. Someone here that I run with or know in the running community here, he had run it in 2019. He's like, you've got to sign up. It's a great community. Like that was one of his selling points is like just the community is so cool and so inspiring. And he knew I was going for a sub 3. So he kind of got me to sign up for it with that being one of the reasons. But I think really more so as I've listen to podcasts with people who have run in the past. Like I listened to Ellie on the Runs. She had the OTQ, the Pacers for the
Yep.
OTQ group in 2019. Yeah, that was really cool. So I think it was like more so learning about the race and hearing other people's experience that really I was like, wow, this is a really special race.
Did the course feel like, because people go to CIM to run fast, did it feel fast? I know there's rollers.
I didn't think the rollers were bad at all. And maybe it's because I mean, Anchorage is like fairly hilly. It kind of depends upon where you are in the city. Like, I definitely have hills and rolling hills that I train on regularly. So I didn't think it was bad at all. And I definitely, I thought it was fast, especially those last few miles
I
going
mean,
to the finish.
you ran a 6:10 mile at mile 25. That's insane.
I don't know how I did that.
Did you feel it? Were you like, this is the last, like, because I mean, you still had a mile to go after that.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that mile pop up on my watch. I was more focused on my total elapsed time on
Yeah.
my watch
Yeah.
and more making sure that I was going to make it under 3 hours, which at that point was like, unless I get like some major cramp
Yeah.
or trip and fall, it's should happen. So I don't remember seeing that split on my watch.
Yeah. Because I
And
mean, even if that split would have stayed like 6:30, you would have still broke 2:59.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just the crowds there was more people
Yeah.
cheering at that point in time, and I came up on the 3 hour pace group, which I never saw them. I like saw them at the start, and then I never saw them again. And I would constantly like look up, and as the road dipped, would look for them. And I don't know if the guy wasn't holding his sign very high, but they were fast out of the gate.
Yeah. I saw that in your recap that you were like planning to kind of hang with them for a little bit, but they just took off at the beginning.
Yeah, I was wanting to. I want to say I heard someone say they went through the half in like 129, and I went through the half at 1:30:08.
But that was a
So
lapse time where that was like you were 30 seconds back from the start, or was that your total time?
that was my actual. That was my.
Oh, did that freak
That
you
was
out
my
a little bit? Because, like, the smart way to run a marathon is to negative split, but like, it takes so much confidence to cross the halfway mark and be like, I have to speed up in the second half to break three.
Yeah, but I was feeling okay.
Yeah.
Like I was feeling pretty good at that point in time, and I knew it was like you wanted to even split or negative split, and I also knew the course. Like I looked at the course profile and knew that the second half was much easier, or just more downhill, and so I was pretty sure that that wouldn't mess me up. Like I would be able to do it. So, but my bathroom break.
Oh, right. Your bathroom break at mile 5 or 7. When was that?
Yeah, it was like mile 5, I think. Then decided to stop and use the bathroom, or so I knew that I had,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, going through the half at 1:30:08 didn't freak me out. I was okay with that because I actually thought I might be a little bit over with my bathroom break.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because I mean, if that was mile was like 7:17, that took like a good 30 seconds off what you were doing.
Right, right,
Are you
yeah.
so
But it
glad
was
you
totally worth
stopped?
it. I'm glad I stopped. Yeah,
Yeah. Nothing like running 20 more miles having to pee the entire time.
yeah, no, yeah. It was it was too uncomfortable.
So were there times in the race where you got nervous or like what you know how like they always say like the marathon is like ebbs and flows, right? Like I feel great, woo, and then like you're like, "Oh no, oh shit, what am I doing?" Like what was your mental process?
Yeah, going into the race, it's like it's a long time, and there's always things you don't plan on going wrong, whether it's dropping a goo or like my bathroom stop or cramping unexpectedly. So I know there's a lot has to go right. Um, but for the most part, I just like constantly checking my time and staying on pace. I mean, I really was in a pretty good headspace the whole time. At mile 8, I remember thinking, "Oh, I'm starting to hurt a little bit. This is getting hard." And then I remembered how much I can hurt and how much it's going to hurt even more. So I was like, "Okay, no, I'm fine." And I think just having the other people there to distract you, like it was such a big race that listening to other people talk and their conversations, that distracted me. And then having people cheering or just me focused on when I'm going to take my next gel. Okay, now when am I going to see my parents? And so those little things just kind of broke up the race and helped it go by fast. And I really fortunately did not have too many points in the race where I got into a bad headspace or felt really bad.
I mean, I think part of that has to be just you were so prepared. Like your training was there, right? Like if you know that your training was there and you believe in it, and you've done it enough times, you can kind of talk yourself off those cliffs.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, just having the experience of running marathons and coaching other people through marathons and following other people on social media and learning from their experiences. So yeah, it's kind of, I know kind of what I need to do. And, I feel like I have a bag of tricks that, you can pull out and use on race day.
Yeah, I love that. That's what people need to do. Have your bag of tricks ready to go. Where did you see your husband and your kids on the course too?
They weren't on the course, not until the end. My husband was watching the kids and he didn't want to try to navigate
Right, because
closed
it's
roads.
like point to point.
It's point to point, yeah.
So they
yeah.
came to
And
the
we
finish
actually
line.
didn't even have a rental. What's that?
They came to the finish line.
They were at the finish line, yeah. Yeah. So he didn't want to try to navigate that with two young kids. So my parents and aunt were out on the course. And then I had a friend, she's actually from Anchorage here. She was in Sacramento visiting with her family. So I saw her a few times on the course, and then other random people who follow me on social media, they said hi. So that's always nice. And there was one other gal who I'd met at a half marathon here in Anchorage this summer. I think she lives in Nebraska. And I saw her. She was a guide for a blind man, and they were right around that 3-hour pace too.
Oh,
so
that's so cool.
Just seeing those people, familiar faces, and having other people say hi to me, that also lifts your spirits too.
It's kind of crazy what kind of boost it gives you, honestly.
Yeah. Or just to hear your name called and I look over and it's like a stranger.
Yeah. It's a game changer though. It like totally like kicks your butt into gear like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this race. Like, let's go."
Yeah, exactly.
That's so good. Okay, so I want to hear about the fueling strategy that you had, and also like what did you change for this race going into it?
So fueling during the race, normally I'll take 3 gels, which I am realizing as the more I learn about marathoning and the more I follow like registered dietitians on Instagram, everyone's like, you need more fuel, more hydration. And so for my marathon in August, I decided to do 4 gels along with some scratch in a water bottle. And I felt a big difference. By the end, I mean, I was tired, but I did not hit that wall at mile 22 like I had in so many of my other marathons. So I felt it much better. And then this time I ended up taking in 5 gels, which kind of an accident. I had 3 tucked in my top at the start. I had a 4th in my arm sleeve before I tossed that. And then I had taped 1 to the water bottle my dad handed to me at mile like 15.
Oh, smart.
I also knew that there was going to be gels on the course. So I was, didn't freak out too much. Like if I didn't get the water bottle from my parents or I dropped one, I had those as backups. And I started feeling much earlier in the race. I think I took my first gel like mile 4, 5, which is much earlier than I would normally take it in. But someone had said that that's what they did. Like, when your stomach's feeling a little calmer at the beginning of the race, just try to front load as many calories as you can. So I tried that approach and then did it basically every 5 miles or so throughout the race. So that was one thing I did differently for this race. And then I also did a true carb load for going into CIM. So for the 2.5 days before the race, I ate basically 90% carbohydrates. And I followed Featherstone Nutrition, Megan. She has a little booklet out, and then she had a podcast that I listened to. And so it was very specific because I had done a carb load for a prior. Actually, I did a carb deplete and then a carb load, which she said is not the carb deplete is not necessary and probably more maybe a little more detrimental. But I didn't have like a specific number of grams of carbohydrates to hit for that first carb load, and whereas this time I did, and so I was tracked all my calories or all my grams of carbohydrates those days going into the marathon. I had to eat more than what I had to eat 400 grams of carbohydrates, but that's only 1,600 calories, which that's not enough for me.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
not
ended
enough
up
food.
eating more. Yeah, I ended up eating more, but anything over, I still just try to make it carbohydrates or mostly carbohydrates.
So if it's 1,600 calories worth of carbohydrates, you can just eat your other calories in like protein or fat or whatever.
Yeah.
To get over to what like your body wants.
Yeah, from what I understand. Yeah. So obviously, like the bagels that I had, they do have some fat. They do have a little bit of protein. So yeah, it's 400, basically 1,600 calories of carbohydrates. But I was still hungry. I had hit my 400 grams for the day, but I was still hungry, and it was in the afternoon. And I also did do a fair amount of liquid calories. Like I ate those Bolt House juices, very sugary, but I mean, maybe not the healthiest for most people, but great for a carb load.
Right, you're trying to get all your carbs in.
Yeah. So I got some of those, and so I think just having liquid calories, I just didn't feel as full. So, but had. Go ahead. Oh no, I did eat even more than what she recommended.
I know the carb loading thing works and it's a real thing, but like I just struggle with it because I'm like, I feel like I just carb load every day. Like I feel like I eat so many carbs every single day that like, could I possibly add more?
No, I think no. It was kind of crazy. Like it was bagels, graham crackers, pretzels. I mean, I eat a lot of carbs too, but this. So for the most part, it wasn't necessarily hard. But I did have to be conscientious about what I eat, and not really any protein. I will say I had a few bites of my kids' chicken fingers.
Yeah, good. That's like any good mom should.
And some French fries too. So
yeah, I struggle with that with my kids with dinner. Like if I make them, macaroni and like just whatever their food, and I'm making my own healthy food that they won't eat, I'm always taking bites here and there. I can't cook them a meal without grabbing bites.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's just normal life there. So you would do, I feel like Heather, is it Heather?
Yeah.
The dietitian? I feel
Megan.
I think Heather because Heather, yeah. Sorry, Megan.
Yeah.
I feel like she's kind of blowing up. I'm seeing her on my feed a lot, and like I feel like a lot of people are really talking about the nutrition advice that she has to give in regards to the carb loading and whatnot.
Yes, I agree because I feel like she works with a lot of runners because she also can perform women who. There was 8 women at CIM who are also trying to break 3 hours from Mary's group. Mary and Lauren's, they were coaching that group. So I had met them the day before, thinking and hoping I would run with them, but I didn't. But I saw them at the end. Megan had worked with them, and then I think she worked with a lot of McCurdy trained athletes too. And
she worked with Megan Murray. I always say her last name wrong. That was on the podcast.
Oh, yes, I did hear that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I thought you were doing Mary's group, and I don't know why I thought that.
I had really thought about it. So initially, when she had that group, I was still working with my coach. And then after the August marathon, when my coach took on a new job and wasn't able to coach me anymore, we had kind of thrown out that idea, but they were already into their training, and I kind of needed special like a month to recover from my marathon and then build up again. So I'd went back and forth on whether or not to reach out and ask to join the group. I mean, in hindsight, I'm like, I should have, because it was such a fun group. But I did connect to some of them on social media, so that was fun. But then basically, I decided to hire a strength coach instead of work with my running coach. I hired a strength coach, which was 100% worth it. That was another thing in this last 3.5 months that made a huge difference in my fitness, because I feel like I gained more fitness in these 3 months than I had, like, say, January to my August marathon.
Well, and you've been running long enough and coaching people long enough that, like, you know what needs to happen with the running. And so the guidance for the strength was probably way more important.
Yeah, and it was so different. The strength training that my strength coach had me do was a lot of eccentric work, really slow on the way down.
I hate that so much.
Oh, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. I could not believe just doing like a split squat. I was so much pain. Yeah, but it was so good, especially because I told her I was running CIM, so she had me do, like, make sure my quads were really strong for the downhill. And she's a runner herself, trying to break 3 hours.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so she knows her stuff. I mean, yeah, it was 100% worth it to work with her. Yeah.
I always struggle with patience on the eccentric stuff, because I'm like, I just want to bang it out. Like, I just want to move on from this squat.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, because so I would work virtually with her. So she's in Minnesota, and
okay.
we would just do a Google Meet, and but she coached me through it. And yeah, I would not have done as many reps as she had me do, because she does it to, like, true failure, and I was hurting at the end of those sessions, and actually at the end of everything she had me do. Yeah, it was really hard, but really good. And yeah, I think just having that accountability, that made me that much stronger.
So how did you balance that with running such high mileage, and, like, how did you space out? Well, I guess the first question should be, how many days a week were you strength training?
Twice.
Okay. I think that's, like, such a good, healthy balance. I mean, if you're running high mileage, like, that's much more than that. It's hard to fit in. And then how are you recovering enough to do some, like, good quality runs on your hard days?
Yeah. So I was always lift. So I would lift one session with her, and then the second session would be on my own. And I would lift on the same day as a hard workout. So hard workout in the morning, usually strength train during my son's nap time in the afternoon, and then an easy shakeout run in the evening. It was typically how I structured those. But she always said to have 2 days of no strength in between. And then, so it was like, 2 days of no strength in between the 2 sessions. And then, trying to keep the hard days hard, easy days easy.
So did you focus more on legs? Did you do, like, full body one day, mostly legs one day? What did that look like?
I always do full body each session.
Both days. Okay.
Yeah. Her workouts were full body. It was legs, upper body, and core within 30 minutes. So it's really productive. And I mean, it was
30 minutes. That's good.
Yeah.
If you can commit to that and do it, like, 30 minutes, we all have 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think were the most important, like, things you learned from the strength program, as far as, like, what you'll take with you when you go try to run 255 or when you coach your athletes?
Having the 2 days off in between the strength sessions, and then it's crazy how much you don't how many little weight you do a lot just with body weight. And so just knowing that you can get a quality strength session in with very little weight. But also that eccentric component, and trying to go, I mean, usually the count was like 10, like for a squat, 10 down, 2 up.
No.
Yeah. It's hard.
You know what? I forgot about eccentric. Like, I've been lifting pretty consistently for like a year and a half now. And my husband has kind of stopped lifting so much. He's just been busier with work and our move and everything. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, You haven't been lifting with Glenn anymore, and he would always make me do that eccentric stuff, and I probably haven't done eccentric stuff in like 6 months.
Yeah.
Dang it, and I'm gonna have to now that you're talking about it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's an approach that I didn't necessarily know. I mean, I knew it was out there, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that it was applicable to running it and how much it could help with my running as well.
Okay, so what do you say your biggest lessons were from CIM this year, from the race itself or the training, however you want to package that up?
The more nutrition on the course or during the race, earlier in the race, and trying. I mean, if another marathon build, I would try to do the higher mileage, more long runs with workouts in them. I think I did 3 by 12 miles. I mean, 3 by 4 miles. That would be a lot. 3 by 4 miles at goal marathon pace. And I did my goal marathon pace. I would always do it a little bit faster. I really did it a lot at 6:40 pace, just so that 6:45, the 6:50 pace that I needed would feel that much easier. So I would definitely do that again too.
What's your break between when you do 3 by 4? What's your in between?
Half a mile.
Okay.
I think I did half a mile.
Okay.
Quarter to a half a mile, something like that. Yeah. And then I would say just in general with my running, the last year and a half in particular, is the nutrition piece, like eating something before my morning runs and within 30 minutes. That has been, because I've had just like tiny little flare-ups of niggles, but that was the one piece I changed in the last year and a half, 2 years, is eating something before my morning run, because otherwise I would do most of my runs fasted. And for the last 2 years, I haven't had any major injuries. And I really think that, and then getting fuel within 30 minutes has been the reason why.
What do you eat before? Like, do you run early? Like, are you home with your youngest kid and your older ones at school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you running before your husband goes to work?
Yeah. He starts work at 8:30.
Okay.
So I have to be done by then. So, I mean, sometimes it's a 7 a.m. start in order to be done by 8:30. So 6:37 is usually when I'm running. Not crazy early like some people who do at 5
I think that's doable. Like that feels good to me. Like 7 a.m. feels, I mean, I'm a 9 a.m. runner. Don't, but 7 a.m. feels like I can get up at 5, have my morning, and then run. I need to be up. Like I can't get out of bed and go run. I need to be awake for like at least an hour.
Yeah. So I'm just eating something small, like 100, 200 calories. It could be a couple graham crackers, a gel, or some energy chews. Nothing significant, just something basically as I'm going out the door,
Calories
just so that my body has something. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. Well, this has been super fun and I'm super proud of you. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I don't think it'll ever get old seeing people run sub 3 for the first time.
It is. Yeah. It's kind of that barrier that, I mean, the next barrier really is the OTQ.
Yeah.
And then you got the 3-hour mark. And then you have kind of the Boston qualifying standard.
I mean, but like when the OTQ was 2:45, were you thinking about it? And now what do you think? It's like 2:37.
Oh, yeah. No, it's way out of my league. I mean, with how much,
when it was 2:45, were you thinking like maybe?
I know how much I've trained, like how much I've put into my last marathons, and it would be a big stretch. And just, I mean, knowing where I was in college, like I was below average in college. So to get to here, it's pretty incredible. And yeah, if I had been a better runner in college, then maybe, but no.
Where did you run in college? Did you walk on somewhere?
I just ran a small D3 school in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really my social hour of the day. And I mean, I loved running, but really, I mean, I would say college really, I fell in love with running even more, and probably just that social aspect. And because struggled with anemia a lot in college, and so I did not, it was not a good performance per se. Yeah, for me performing well,
Is that where you
but
met
just
your
stuck with
husband?
it. No, we met at a summer camp in Minnesota.
Oh, okay, cool. And then he was like, just so you know, we're moving back to Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you working at the camp?
Yeah, we were both working. I
Oh,
was kind of his boss. I
oh,
mean,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay, Michelle, what's something professionally or personally that you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
Travel more, travel internationally.
Mm. Have you traveled internationally at all?
Just drove through Canada,
I feel
went over
like
the border
I feel
and
like
Mexico.
Alaska to me feels like another country.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely when I first moved here, yeah. Yeah. There's definitely an element of it being like a different country. And we'll come across it like shipping stuff here. There's almost we're treated like sometimes you can't have stuff shipped here. That's very common.
Um, when if I want to visit Alaska, when do I come?
June or July.
Okay. And where do we go? Where should we go?
Anchorage, Homer, Seward. There's a lot. Those are some of the smaller towns on the ocean. Yeah, Seward, Homer, do Girdwood, Anchorage.
Okay.
Fairbanks is far. It's a trek, but if you go to Denali,
Okay.
that yeah.
What is the best most recent book you've read?
So I was rereading Dina Castor's book right before the marathon. I didn't make it through, but that was. I don't do a lot of reading. I wish I had more time to read, but
Well, you're running
that was
100-mile weeks. Who has time to read?
yeah. So that was the best most recent book.
I guess if I read less, I could run more.
Yeah.
You got to give up a little bit of something you love to do something else you
I,
love.
yeah, I don't have time. I don't watch TV or any shows.
You just go to bed
Don't.
after the kids go to bed and you're just done.
Yeah, I do some more work and then go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Who is someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you would like to have coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
Probably Kara Goucher.
Hmm.
She's definitely someone I've looked up to for many years, and she's from Minnesota, and just a little thing story she shared along the way I've really connected with. So I think that would be the person I would choose.
I feel like you could probably make that happen at some point. It's not unreachable.
just, just not need to move to Boulder.
Yeah, yeah, and you can run into her at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
What is your last message to leave with our audience today?
I would say give people more grace.
Mm.
I think that so much of I often have to remind myself that people have the opinions that they do and the thoughts that they do because of what they've experienced in their life or the information that they've been given or sought out.
Mm.
And so I just, if you really understood where they were coming from, it'd probably make more sense as to why they had the thoughts that they do. So just to give more people more grace and give yourself more grace too. So that would be my message.
Um, did you read? Are you on Twitter? Like, I literally, I can't believe you just said that because I literally tweeted so close to that last night. We're like on the same
Oh,
wavelength. I have to read it because it's like, as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, she's thinking the exact same thing I'm thinking every day because people are so hateful. And what did I say? I said, you're going to die when you hear this because it's like pretty much what you said. I said, before you judge a human, do you know their story? Do you know what baggage they carry? Do you know what reasons they believe why? Wait, do you really know the reasons why they believe what they believe? It's messy, but if we get to know the whole person, that will likely change the way we think we feel about them.
yeah.
And that, as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, it's so true. And I think that that's the biggest thing is like, I've been learning over the past couple years is like, someone could think something that you think is just totally crazy, but like, who raised them? You know, what have they been surrounded by their entire lives? Like, there's a reason they believe that. And, you know, our experiences are just so different. So you just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I heard the kind of the phrase hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
that really stuck with me. And then it's like, okay, that, and then just it was like another meme on Instagram or something where it was like, you know, before you go and judge someone, maybe, you know, take a look at their history or their background and figure out why, you know, there's a reason that they had these thoughts or opinions or act the way they do.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Okay. Everybody go forth and take it. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.